Greetings, celestial travelers. For this celestial chatter, December 27th through January 2nd, the end of 2021 and the beginning of 2022, all are going to transpire during this next week. I'm going to do something slightly different this time, and that is to begin doing a consideration about the moon, which is not really one of the planets that I spend a lot of time with because it moves so frigging fast. But if you take a look at this chart that's right here on the screen, I'm using a different astrological program this week. I'm going to demonstrate. See the moon over here in Libra? As the week proceeds, you're going to see the moon move through Libra, then go through Scorpio, then Sagittarius, and finally end up at the end of the week. Here we are at Sunday, entering into the field of Capricorn. I'm going to go backwards here so that we can get back to the beginning of the week. Okay. As the year draws to a close, we often reflect on moments that highlighted certain turning points in our journey. Not all are going to be as delightful as we had hoped, and many likely challenged us to change. During the final week of 2021, the moon will be traversing the section of the zodiac from Libra into Capricorn up here, so a quarter of the charts. The moon can put us in touch with our feelings as well as nurturing the mother energies. In Libra, this might occupy a shared space with others that emphasizes attempts to stimulate harmony. When the next phase of the lunar journey arrives on Tuesday, the feelings become a bit more personal and potentially intense as the lunar light drifts through Scorpio. We may wonder if choices we have spawned were appropriate, or if we might be attempting to carry too much baggage into a zone that is asking us to lighten our load. On Thursday, the moon sets off on a quest in Sagittarius fashion to go where no one has gone before. On Friday, the last day of 2021, we are still seeking to fulfill questions about what is next, but hopefully this last year has opened our souls to avenues we had no idea we would be required to contemplate. The moon and Mars will be holding hands briefly on this day. There we go. Briefly on this day. So it would be wise to temper being a bit too extravagant with our desires. Oh yes, the possibilities are endless. But the constraints of the physical realm should be heeded. New Year's Eve might be an auspicious moment to ask yourself where you think you will be in 5 or 10 years. As you awaken on Saturday morning, welcome to 2022. The moon will clear the last few degrees of Sagittarius before joining the group of planets making their way through Capricorn. Included with the moon will be 4 other celestial travelers making their way to various stages of the mountainous ascent. That's Capricorn, after all, the mountain goat. Okay, that was the lunar look. Let's take ourselves back to the beginning of the week. That was the lunar consideration for last week of the year as we feed into 2022. This, of course, must be shoveled into the context developing within the rest of our celestial host. We start the week out on, the first aspect, planetary aspect will be on that Wednesday. And it arrives as Venus and Mercury. Right here, you see they're at 24 degrees. Pass each other, switching sides as Venus continues its retrograde dance just 1 degree from Pluto, right here. Mars forms a sextile with Saturn. See from there, 11 degrees, Sagittarius to Aquarius. Jupiter slides home into Pisces as we are tasked with discovering relevance to our soul's mission in the subtler realms. See Jupiter down here, sliding into Pisces. On Thursday, Mercury, clipping right along, crosses paths with Pluto as it surges toward Aquarius. Then on New Year's Eve, the sun, right here, 10 degrees of Capricorn, forms a trine with Uranus down here in Taurus. Uranus is still going retrograde. The way you can tell a retrograde planet in this particular chart format is if the planet degrees and minutes are in red. That's an indication that they are in retrograde, as opposed to putting the little R beside it. As the completion of any year ascends, we are in the Capricorn zone of influence. This is with every year. Are we going to be drawn toward either the hermit or the executive function of society? Each play a part. Is our calling to be authoritative, structured, and disciplined? As a manager, or the respectful, responsible, wise elder? It is likely to be some combination of these factors in play. I'm proposing these thoughts on the day of the winter solstice, so I'm trying to ferret a meaningful course forward that is beneficial for the most. It's not possible to aim for all to be happy or pleased with the disparity plaguing our current grasp of reality in modern culture. I get the image of a cartoon showing a very fat elephant with a large bag of cookies behind him and one cookie left on the table, saying to the other two there, one being of very minimal living standard, and the other standard middle-class person. And the elephant says, "See, he wants your cookie," inferring the poor person and the middle class are to struggle for what is left. This is the current economic picture of a monetary system that has been hijacked to serve a few and leaving the remaining minimal resources to be fought over. To attempt survival in this context can only spawn tension between those unable to fathom the larger matrix within which they try to exist. This unsustainable hierarchical feudal system has existed amongst the human family for a long time and is not reflected within the rest of the natural rhythm here on planet Earth. Let's unpack the planetary signature for New Year's Eve this year. Saturn Saturn right here, is starting to wane in its square with Uranus. The sun is forming a trine to Uranus, and the moon is forming a quincunx with this same Uranus. Do you see a common thread here? Is that Uranus in Taurus? It is. Taurus is the sign of resources, both natural and contrived. It is the capacity we have to be in touch with Mother Earth, but just as readily with the implements created from those natural resources. Uranus can disrupt or shake up whatever it is involved in. It is not doing this with the aim to just making things uncomfortable, but as a directive to keep us from becoming too comfortable and complacent. It is the function of awakening us to options we would not be aware of if we were not shaken from our slumber and dream state. Saturn is structure, or the bones upon which things can remain rigid and upright. This long-term square aspect we are living with began with a conjunction back in Capricorn in the late 80s and early 90s. This had the potential to awaken us to factors of governance we are subject to. This is the waning last quarter aspect of this cycle, and often is referred to as a crisis in consciousness. At this time, there was a restlessness stirred up with that folks became aware of with the advent of new technology that had the potential for making us aware of more information around the globe at a moment's notice. Anybody think of the World Wide Web? This last quarter aspect from Aquarius to Taurus, taking place right now, places our community awareness, Aquarius, in attention with our understanding of what it means to own and the ramifications of our planet in Taurus. That is Taurus. The sun trying that Uranian signature brings up governance, Capricorn, being stimulated with vitality and life purpose, attempting to work in harmony with a shakeup in our resource space, Taurus, and the planet under stress to supply, the planet being Earth, by the way, under stress to supply what we demand of her. The moon in Sagittarius, quincunx, to this same Uranus factor, asks us to ponder seemingly irresolvable differences of direction to find a common ground. Sagittarius is the higher mind and visions that surpass what we thought was possible to know. This is at odds with meaningful understanding of just what Mother Earth is actually making available and at what cost. All of this transpires as Jupiter will infuse a profound opportunity for the investigation of a vast arena of spiritual texture as it enters Pisces on this very same Wednesday this week. Jupiter can often be an attempt to exaggerate potential expansion of anything it touches. With Neptune doing the long dance through Pisces, our imagination and dreamscape have been enhanced for the last 10 years, and some have used this to attempt to escape from reality with so-called mind-enhancing drugs and alcohol. Alcohol dulls our perceptions, and New Year's Eve often has this play out over the top. The drug use only has some benefit when coupled with proper containment, factors that are not just aimed at another escape from the worries of the world, the potential to awaken within the dreamscape or from it into a more resonant frequency of our connection to all of life only awaits our participation with others in varying stages of this quest. I'm going to move the chart ahead just a little bit. Into 2022. So, 2022, what are you going to make of it? And will the first few days be some kind of initiation into this process? Venus and Uranus are both retrograde as the year begins. See, they're red. We are having to contemplate appropriate relationship factors and perhaps resource relevance if we are to survive as a species. You may want to keep this in mind as you formulate New Year's resolutions. Just for a little spice in the mix, Mercury will enter Aquarius on the 2nd. You can kind of see up here, it's entered Aquarius. The energy shift can inspire our thoughts and communicate our communication efforts to seek others we sense are a part of our cosmic tribe. Hang on a second. You may not have noticed on that chart. Let's see if we can bring the chart back up so you can see this. On the 2nd of January, you see that the moon here is at 10 degrees of Capricorn and the sun is at 12 degrees of Capricorn. The moon moves at a degree every 2 hours. So this is basically 4 hours away on this January 2nd, where we will actually have our next new moon. And even though it will be transpiring at what the chart says is 12 degrees, when I consider the Sabian symbols begin at 0 to 1 degree being the first degree, and 0 to 59 minutes. And from 1 to 1 degree, 59 minutes is the second degree. So this new moon as a time for us to use for setting our intentions for the next creative cycle to unfold in Capricorn fashion, I'm going to be looking at the 13 degrees of Capricorn, because that is the 13th degree, from 12 degrees 0 to 12:59. Dane Rudger's interpretations for the Sabian symbols is a tool that I use for a lot of different purposes. And the Sabian symbol for this particular new moon, as we're setting our intentions in Capricorn fashion to, make a determination for what we want to accomplish and how in our best intentions, we intend to make it meaningful and set a pattern that it will be structured enough and yet flexible enough so that it can include as many people as possible. There's their wise elder at work. The symbol reads, a fire worshiper meditates on the ultimate realities of existence. The keynote, the subjective quest for ultimates beyond the interplay of life and death processes. Oh, nothing like a new moon with a light message, right? So, beyond cultural enjoyment, this is further definition of it, and the passion for accumulation of often unusable data of sense knowledge, stands the willful and determined adventure in consciousness. Of the occultist, the yogi, the mystic, the mystery of the fire has always captured man's imagination because it is the mystery of all transformations wrapped in the enigma of death. In times when collective perhaps total death could be in store for mankind. The process of subjective meditation is fascinating. An ever-growing greater number of people. This is the third symbol in the 57th sequence. It brings us to a stage beyond life itself. Are we ready to take the step which the master of yoga claim to have taken, to experience death and return to the same body? Are we ready to demonstrate man's will to transcendence? These are not really light questions to ponder. I have one other thing to share with you before I will let you go this week. Last evening, a group of us gathered, I would say a group of woo characters, and the moderator for our Zoom meeting was Sue Minahan, who provides a astrological periodically presentation that we participate in to share the understanding of that astrological field, as well as, its connection to a lot of other things. And we got to a certain point where we'd already kind of made a determination for the winter solstice as far as what energy was in play between each of us. And Sue asked us, does anybody out there have or want to pull a card? And when that terminology is used, what they're referring to is there are a vast number of divination decks that have come around. One of the originals, the Rider-Waite Tarot deck, is kind of like a foundation for a lot of these decks, but the deck quantity has literally erupted over the past 20 years or so, with literally probably hundreds if not thousands of different decks available from many different backgrounds or lineages of thinking that are inspired. And what a divination process is kind of like what I do with the Sabian symbols is, I'm basically gone off script right now, is to kind of like in horary astrology, where you put a quest out to the universe for an answer. And the seeking of the answer is a divination process where you're actually asking, a context into a larger, more inclusive format for insight into whatever your query happens to be. And how it arrives is not necessarily going to be like, you might say, is my relationship going to be better or as I go forward? And the divination may not come up with something so blatant as to say, hey, you're doing fine, or, no, your partner's goofing around on you. The reality is it's a symbolic answer that comes that you need to sit with for a while to interpret. And as we went around the group of the 9 of us, either a card was picked from, we all had different decks to choose from, or some other modality was used to talk. Because the question that Sue had asked was, let's pull a card for 2022, see what kind of a energy, a signature might we be contemplating as we go into this next year. And so it got to my turn, and I have this deck called the Mystical Shaman Oracle deck that was facilitated by Alberto Villoldo, one of my shamanic teachers. And so I whipped out a card, and this is the card that I got, called Soul Retrieval. And soul retrieval is probably the most, or the deepest utilization of the methodology of shamanic healing. And one of the most dynamic reasons for people to experience health issues often will be referred to as soul loss. And soul loss is what is soul? We all arrived as incarnate beings as souls to take up the living experience as an incarnate human being here on planet Earth to learn things. There is a soul lesson that is brought up, actually many soul lessons that are brought up as we go through the whole process of being a human incarnate. And the lessons, the aspect of the soul, it has different parts to it. Part of your soul may be extremely playful, lively. Part of it may be very intense, and they're just different aspects of soul awareness that come. And as we go through life, things don't always pan out as well as we might have hoped that they were going to. And what transpires is, there may be a shock or a really extremely heavy pressure pattern that we land within somewhere along the way. And in that process, an aspect of our soul says, like a car accident. You're in a car accident. The last place that a soul really wants to be is in that car accident. And because of that, it'll just say, I'm checking out right here. I'm heading to a different realm. Well, the soul is, has the capability of wandering into quite a lot of different varied places. And so it doesn't always just automatically come right back into the body soul. We have three souls: body soul, mental soul, and oversoul. And so what soul retrieval is a process of gathering spirit assistance to journey upon the behalf of someone to go and hunt for aspects of the soul that have wandered elsewhere. And the effects of part of one's soul wandering elsewhere can be like, your joy has basically been trounced by some experience. In my life, the process of relationship was very early challenged. I think I came in with a previous life experience that said that being in relationship is, it's going to be challenged. And this transpired as I went through my formative years, where I was left by quite a number of young ladies along the way who, just determined that, other things were beckoning their participation. And so the process of ill health, one of the main causes of it, besides viruses and, which there is one of those viruses mutating and causing all kinds of entertainment for us these days, is this checking out of aspects of our soul. And if you don't have all the aspects of your soul comfortably ensconced within your whole soul being, it can be a challenge. And depending on how much of a challenge it is, you get ill because you're not able to fire on all cylinders, because some of the cylinders are, they're only half full or maybe even empty. You may not have the joy in you, that the childhood inquisitiveness may have been trounced by, your adults that were training you into what it means to be alive, and just said, you don't need to be so damn curious about everything because it's just going to get you in trouble. And you hear that often enough during your formative years, and it's just kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to ask questions anymore. So soul retrieval has a flavor going into 2022. From my perspective, because this is the only perspective that I can give you, is that there's a lot of soul loss that transpires on the planet. You often hear about people in PTSD. This is a form of soul loss where because of a horrendous and oftentimes a variety of horrendous experiences that people go through, they, parts of their soul say, I'm not comfortable in this particular kind of environment, so I'm going to wander off to somewhere else. And, soul retrieval is an amazing, amazing process. And I can't explain it all to you. I could just say that as we go into 2022, from my perspective, being able to engage with others in a meaningful fashion where we can invite aspects of your soul to come back into play with you is one of my focuses in being alive. And as a psychopomp, which is a person who energetically engages with people in the transitional phase of the physical life process, being able to invite at that time aspects of their soul package to be present there as they go through their final moments of life. And final moments can be moments to years. Some people take a long time to make that transition, but being aware of an intact soul when you make transition really is beneficial, not only just to you, but to spirit itself. Because we as souls, when we come to live on planet Earth, are bringing opportunity for soul growth to transpire so that we can enhance the whole experience of what spirit is. There really is only one spirit, which we as souls are like little holographic projections of, and going through learning processes to enhance the larger essence of spirit. And we go through many incarnations to pull this off. So 2022, soul retrieval is on my plate. And if any of you happen to find yourself in need, this is one of the services that I offer, besides astrology, to assist you in your soul growth, because astrology is an awesome soul growth enhancement tool as well. So thank you for the slightly extended consideration this week and a little beyond just my printed up version that I do every week and have been doing now for a couple of years. At the end of the week, enjoy New Year's Eve, but be conscious of what it is that you're inviting to be factors for how 2022 is going to unfurl. Thank you very much. I trust you will use this information as wisely as you need to. Until next week, ciao.